today, as you may see from the title, or maybe you saw from the Facebook post, or you saw that this was happening on YouTube, I don't know. But you should know that today is the stock market update, and it's actually the first fluctuation of season 2. So I don't have the stock market up on the screen, so I'm going to fix that. But in the meantime, I want to encourage you to go up in the top right corner of the video right now if you're watching live, or if you're watching afterwards, it should still be there. And you can go and vote in the stock market to create the fluctuation for next week. So for people who may not have figured out what the stock market is, it is a YouTube poll run stock market. So what happens is people vote in the poll, and that changes the values of the stock market via random manipulation. But what happens is, well, you'll see. So I have the stock market up on the screen now, and we can see it now. Everybody has the same amount of assets. Now that is about to change because the stock values are about to change for the first time. So I have not bought in. I felt it wouldn't be fair if I bought in right at the start, because then I would have an unfair advantage over people. Although I did let others jump in at the start, because last season I did seem to have a pretty big head start on a lot of people. So I figured, why not make it a challenge, I guess, this season for me. So we are going to update the stock market prices. So there's actually 5 stock this season, so we will have some different. Well, it's not going to be too different. The main big difference in how this is going to happen is that the market factor can only go up to 40 this year, which means that 20 is the midline. 20 means that nothing really happens for people who didn't get any votes. And anything below that is good for people who didn't get any votes. And anything above... Actually, okay, so that's not true. If everybody got the same amount of votes, then you would have 20% across the board out of 100%, and it would zero out, so nobody would go anywhere. That's what the 20% is. So what we're seeing in this season is that we may have a little bit more jump from people who get the sole votes from people, just because there's a wider option. So that's assuming that more people will spread out their votes. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So I'm going to get my calculator ready, but in the meantime, I can tell you what the values were for the votes. We're going to start over here on the left with red. So red was not necessarily the fan favorite. It did receive some votes last season when it got some celebrity endorsements. That's also including me, I guess, but a lot of people tended to go towards red at the end because it was so cheap from not having any votes before. This year, we're seeing a lot of the same trends. Red received 0% of the vote. Now, yellow, also kind of just a standard pick. It stayed pretty... It went up and down a lot, but it stayed right around the midpoint. It didn't really gain too much. 0 is also the percentage that yellow received. So we get to green. Green was somewhat of a fan favorite, not necessarily the top dog last season, but it was consistent. It had an upwards trend the whole year. It kind of just followed the trend of the market, and so we're seeing some kickback from that. And green received a 50% of the vote. So that leaves 50% left over for blue and our newcomer number 12. Now, blue was the top dog last year. Blue received a significant amount of votes last season, and was actually up to about 400. That's it's a 400 times increase, a 400% increase on its value. Or whatever. It's not a 400% increase. It's a 300% increase, but 400 sounds cooler. So blue actually received a 0% of the vote. And that leaves us with 12, which, as you can do the math, received a 50% of the vote. So we are going to see a big spike in green, and 12. How much that is going to be a complete mystery until we figure out the market factor. So I do have the market factor ready on my calculator. You should be able to see that. I'm going to click it, and I believe that is 28. So 28 is actually a pretty bad day. It's not the worst day, but it's still significant. So we can see that by it being red, which means that a large amount of the market actually took a pretty big hit. And although green and 12 went up substantially. So this is what we're looking at. And the funny thing is, I actually held out my money, and I'm going to be gaining an advantage from not buying in the first week. So there are some people who should have been helped out by this. I'm hoping that this new market button works. It does not. So I'm going to Control Z that. Maybe I can't. All right, I'm just going to have to do this manually. So this is going to be 1, 2, 2, and this is going to be nothing. And yeah, so that's where it should be. I'll have to fix that macro in between episodes here. So we can go, let's do this in a different order. Let's go check out the market trends. So obviously we haven't really done too much. And oh, I got to zero this out. That's why. So if we zero that out, we'll see that some of them have gone down, some of them have gone up. So let's add this to the market trend. It's pretty easy to do this by memory this time around, just because everything's pretty much the same. So we're going to do 72, 70, not 27, 72, and then we're going to do 122, 72, and 122. So we are only seeing 2 colors on the map, but you can imagine that yellow and red are sitting under this green and blue. I think this is because they're lower, so they get printed to the screen later. That's my guess. And it holds true for green and 12, where 12 is the one we are seeing. Now, I don't need this update button this season. I've left this graph up to the whole 26 weeks so that you can see how far we have to go. So you can see by this jump that 26 weeks isn't that long. We've had 1 week already, and we've got a nice chunk out of that. But so let's go check out the scoreboard, because I'm sure that's what everybody's dying to see. So there's a little smudge on my screen. I thought there was a negative next to Mr. Positive number. I was incorrect. So you can see by even Steven's drop that we have actually seen a hit in the market. So I'm still at 100,000. I'm going to grab this like so, and then sort from largest to smallest, putting me about in the middle of the pack. And what's funny is that because the entire market went down and nobody spread their money out as much as even Steven took the biggest hit, which means that everybody's doing better than the market right now, it's a pretty good sign. So we can see that Dan, with his substantial investment in 12, so Dan and OC fittingly are tied for first place right now. And we have Khalil coming in a smooth, we'll call that third just because there's 2 people in first. I think that's Mario Kart rules. So Khalil is in third with his slight increase in value due to his investment in substantial investment in 12 as compared to his investment in blue. And I obviously did not buy anything, and we see that Mr. Positive is bringing up the bottom of the non-computer people here, and much like he had done last season, but I think he made some bold claims, so maybe we'll see some comebacks. And even Steven bringing up the rear. So I am going to split up my money into stock. It will be a little bit more confusing than when I bought everybody else's stock, because that was all 100 as the price. Now I have 72 and 122 to think about. So I think I'm gonna go for a somewhat spread out, but a triple header, a triple threat per se. So blue, I believe, is a bargain right now. Blue, being the top dog from last season, it's cheap. It's under its starting value. So I gotta go for blue. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go half on blue, and then I'm gonna go 250 on green and 12, because they've shown that they are Well, green has shown it is still loved by the fans, and 12 I think is just a great pick all around. It's a great number, and it's the new cat on the street. Strolling down the alleyway. I don't know. Before this gets worse, I'm gonna buy my stock. So we're just gonna add it in here, and this should actually be too shouldn't be too hard because I can just subtract what other number is added on to my value over on the side. So actually, I can't exactly do 500 and 200. So let me do the math on this. So if I spend 50,000 on blue, so I'm going to divide that by 72, not 7. I can actually get 694.4 repeated stock. So obviously I can't get a fraction of a stock. I'm debating whether I want to round that up. Let's go round it up to let's even round it up to 700 just for a nice number. So that puts me at $50,400 spent. Now, if I go over 200, that shows you that I have spent too much. So I should be able to get about 225 of each of these guys. I'm just off the top of my head. So we're gonna go 225 with that and 225 and see. Okay, so I've bust. I need to take this back down a little bit. Let's go 215 on green. That's not going to be enough. So let's go 175 maybe. That puts me under. And I like 12. So we're going to go up to, let's see, I could get maybe 5 more 12. So let's go 230. I could actually get one more, so 231 is what we're gonna go with. And I think that is everything, because if I add 72 to that, I will be busting. So now I should have $68 left over. I'm gonna put an apostrophe in there. Nah, that'll mess up the math. All right, so that evens back out to 100,000. 68 is too low of a value to buy any of the stock right now. Maybe it will be next week, considering that the market could go down again, or maybe something just won't get votes. But you never know. So what I do need to do now, so we can see the contestant trends, is add these values into the contestants trends page. So what I can do, I'm going to get Even Steven and myself first. Just because that is the order that it is in. So Even Steven was at a cool 92,000. Actually, I could probably get these off the top of my head. So, not 9,200, 92,000. And then I'm at 100,000. Mr. Positive, I believe, was at 97,000, which, let's be honest, it's not that much of a drop, and it's the first week, so we haven't really seen too much. Is that I put 970,000. He's not doing that well. All right, so that should be normal. And then I believe these guys were at 22,000 because they spent all of their money on the big hitters that. Oh, sorry, Dan. And they both of those stock went up to 22,000 or $22 in general. And I believe, if I'm thinking correctly, Khalil had 1,900 or 109,500. So this is the market as we can see. And so if you couldn't see it originally, what I've decided is that the size of the line is going to be determined by how well you did last season. Now, if you didn't participate last season, then obviously you're going to have a small line like Khalil has right here. Now, it's not too small. You can still see the color. Hopefully you can see that on the screen. And then we see that OC, who beat Even Steven last year. Oh, no, sorry. He beat Boring Boris, but that was the baseline. He beat Boring Boris, so we can see that he has a little bit bolder of a line. I actually came in first, so I have gold, and when Megan inevitably enters the market, she will have a silver marking. Even Steven actually came in third, so even Steven has a bronze color here, and that's how this contestant page is going to work. So this is pretty much all for the stock market. I don't have to update anything on here. I do have to fix that macro on the stock market page so that new market works, because that's just convenient. So I'm going to save this out, and we're going to go check out Easteria. So I hope you guys will stick around. But if you haven't voted already, please go up in the top right corner and click on the little eye icon. It'll pop out a voting poll. And for next week, we will see the fluctuation happen again. And I'll give you one last look at the stock market as I get things set up here. So I'm going to switch the screen over to Easteria, and I will go and start it up. So this may take a second. Usually when the first time I'm loading the game in, it gets a little weird. Now you can't actually see the E there. So I'm having a little trouble, I think, because I didn't talk about it on Saturday. I didn't show you the most recent update that I've posted. So I do have a menu now. So that's nice. I didn't go the sell me something route where I have it beeping every time you move something on the screen, but I decided that that was probably going to be too annoying. I may add sound effects into the game later, but that's something that I need a little bit more experience in before I dig deeper into that. One thing, the settings are non-existent right now. There isn't much settings to show you, so you can quit the game. I don't feel like I need to show you that. You can actually load the game now, but the problem is the loading mechanism is a little bit flawed. There are some things that are wrong with it. I'm just going to be completely open about it. If you drop stuff on the ground, right now it crashes the game when you try to load it back in. It's something to do with the fact that it's trying to print the picture of what's being dropped on the ground to the previous screen, and that screen no longer exists. I fixed that with everything else, so I don't know why it's different with how I did it for the stuff on the ground, but hopefully I should have that fixed relatively soon. And also, one thing is that messages and conversations are kind of out of order when you re-log in, especially if you've already completed something. So if you search the crate, it's possible that when you load the game back in, the crate will give you the impression that you can search it again, but if you hit enter, then nothing happens. But let's get into it. Now, you have seen the start already. I don't think there's anything new here. I can show you that there is a little bit more on the map. I think I did show you that in a previous update, but there's a little bit more than even then if I did show you. So that's what we're working with, and you can also move around on the map. So I've added this little icon of your face on the map where you are, and then you can move around. I want to make it so that you can just hold down the button and it'll continue moving, but because of the way I have done things so that you can go through menus and not automatically hit the button that was previously that's in the spot that you go on to on the next page, it's messing with the way that I would do so on here, because when I click the side button, it immediately cancels out whatever event after it reads it in for the first time, so that it's not a problem on the next menu page. And this is actually a menu the way I've done this. So that's the map. We'll get out of here, so we'll grab the rope. That was kind of lucky. I didn't put it in my hands. All right, and we'll put it across the hole. So you can actually see there are some trees up here. I think I did show you some trees. The difference now is that they're not organized. So what I did was I took the picture of the tree, and I pasted it over a very large picture that covers up the entire section over here. So there is some little things on the edge here where it seems like you can tell where it's patched together, but you know, that's not too big of a problem. I'm fine with that. And so I have tested out over here running into trees, so you can I think I had that in the previous update, but it's a little more tedious to do it on the picture because I can't do it based off of how I'm printing it to the screen. everything printed to the screen is based off of this corner up here. So what I have to do is I have to go into the picture and find the actual pixel that is the center of each tree. And because I put the trees on pretty random, it's not as easy, so it's time consuming. Those tree trunks will be added in will be added in slowly over the course of me building the rest of the area around here. So nothing's new down here, other than the fact that there is now more area to the right. So this is where I will be adding some story in very soon. Just some simple story, just to give me a reason to add in things like the stats page and maybe some achievements. But I also added in these rocks over here. It's the same rock as the one in the first area. And so there's a bunch of trees, and you might get some hints about what is going to go and go where just by arrangements of things. But for right now, this is all I've got. But I am right on the cusp of just adding story because I'm getting a lot of the main things out of the way. So we have the map working. You can move around the map, and now you can see a large chunk of the map. We actually haven't been in this section up here. What I did find, I have it set up so you can use the arrow keys and the WASD keys, so you can spam both of them, and it goes really fast. So if you want to go like up, you can hit the up arrow and W at the same time, and that works. But it doesn't, if you just hold it down, it's not continuous. So that's pretty much all I have to show you for Easteria. I am planning on working on it a little bit more tonight. I don't think there'll be an update out tonight, but you can keep your eyes peeled on the Itch.io page. I'm sure that I will have something going on at least after the weekend, because I tend to be pretty productive over the weekends. So that's pretty much it. I want to thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to go vote up in the corner, and I'm going to be signing off, but I'm glad to see that some people came out to the stream, and I will be seeing you, I believe, on Saturday, assuming that I have a topic, and it might be a midday stream, though. I have some stuff going on in the afternoon. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.